Good evening, Darshana. Thank you so much for joining us on the Releasing Eagles YouTube channel. As you know, this is the second interview that we are having with one of our amazing coaches, Mrs. Darshana and Hansjee, and she has been journeying with us for quite a while. Tonight, we do not have Megan Edwards with us. She will be joining us next time. And so I've got the pleasure of interviewing or having a conversation with Darshana by myself. So Darshana, a very warm welcome and thank you again for joining us. And it's such a privilege and an honor to have this conversation with you, being one of our incredible coaches. So Darshana, just in terms of coaching and just a little bit of before we jump into coaching and why coaching, maybe just a little bit of an introduction, who you are,
Sure.
And yeah, what led you to coaching?
Okay, cool. Thanks, Candice. Firstly, thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to chat to you. It's such a privilege to be a part of your coaches in Releasing Eagles. It's been something that I've loved from the time I started with working with you guys. So yeah, as you mentioned, my name's Darshana. I'm currently my day job is relationship manager in a bank. So, and then I'm a mom to a 12-year-old boy who keeps me on my toes every single day. And last by no means, I'm also a professional coach, as you mentioned. And it's something that I hold very dear to me, because it gives me the opportunity to work with people and help them create a shift in their lives. And you mentioned why coaching, and it's always been a desire of mine to work with people and help people, but I couldn't find something that I believed in. So yeah, so there's a whole process that got me there, but yeah, but that's me for now.
Awesome. I'd like to explore that little bit of the process that got you there, because it's always fascinating, to discover, why coaching, why not counseling, why not, I don't know, why not therapy? Why particularly coaching for you? What drew you to the world of coaching, and what do you believe coaching brings to the universe, to our lives?
Okay. So as I alluded to earlier, there's I mean, the desire to work with and help with people is something that I've always had. I always wanted to help people, and yet I actually did study psychology for a short while. I didn't finish it because I moved on to something else, and I went through counseling myself. I went for therapy, and I got to a point where I'm like, okay, so I know what what's happened, and I know the reasons, but now what? And it was only through meeting two phenomenal coaches who helped me shift from like being stuck in what was happening and what had happened to moving forward.
Mm.
And that led to noticeable shifts for me, and it allowed me to move from places that I was stuck in for years.
Yes.
So, and it was after going through that myself that I realized that it's something that I would like to pursue and that would make me help others and who may have been in the same situation that I was in.
Wonderful. So, what I'm hearing is that your experience with coaching was very much an indicator of forward looking. And that is what also drew you to coaching. It's, with therapy and counseling, I mean, with psychology, it's dealing with the past. But coaching helps you to towards forward and moving life forward. So that's incredible. So Darshana, just for the sake of our listeners and viewers, share with us a little bit about your journey into releasing eagles. Maybe how long. I know you've come a long way with releasing eagles. You are family. I mean, you've brought so much. I remember the high teas that we had in the garden. Remember that far
Yes.
long time away when we were still allowed to go outside and be mask free
And hug each other.
and we could hug each other. So share with us a little bit your journey into RE, or maybe start with how did you get involved with RE, and also why this particular organization?
A fellow coach who in the organization that I worked at, he had put a message out asking for volunteers. And it was so funny because it was exactly at that point when I was thinking I would really like to use my coaching to be of service. You know, not just coaching clients, but I wanted to use my coaching to be of service to other people. And then I got in touch with Tanya and spoke to Clonepo, and they invited me to a pairing session. And when I got there, I met these amazing young women, and you know, the model of the coaching mentoring that RE has was so interesting and new. And honestly, I just fell in love immediately. I was sold. And what I really love about working with RE and these dynamic, because they really are dynamic ladies, they just they teach me, I think, more than I teach them sometimes. But what I really love is that I'm able to work with them not only for a shift that in their lives, but it's something that they can do for others as well. So it's almost like a domino effect.
Yeah.
And that's what I love about it.
Awesome. I don't blame you. I mean, it RE can be a little bit addictive because the young people that has come, I've been now in RE for what, 15 years and going, and you know, you see the young people and you like, wow, I have this privilege to serve this life, you know. And when they leave and you see what they become in life and who they become in life and the things that they overcome, it's just incredible, and it's truly a humbling experience. So I can understand why you fell in love. So and you've been with the program now for 3 years, 4 years?
This is my 4th year. Yeah, started in 2018. Yeah.
Incredible. And I remember a young lady, she's an attorney. She lived in Cape Town and she moved to Johannesburg, and I was her coach in Cape Town. And I think Nonhlanhla, she is an incredible young lady. I met her when she was at school. And I think the version of Nonhlanhla that you got to coach, when I was just reading her appreciation note to you, I was absolutely wowed by the significant impact you had made in her life in terms of clearing some uncertainties, helping her to find clarity, confidence, and also I think what was so precious is, you know, she was reflecting on your demeanor and your spirit in how you went about the coaching relationship. So if I may ask you, it's a little bit different, a different lens. What are the unique elements that you bring to the coaching space? Like, if I were to ask you if there's, you know, one thing that you embody in your coaching services, what would that be? When you come into a room, without any doubt, this is what Darshana brings. What would that be?
So for me, the first thing is that being able to hold space for people. I think that is it's part of who I am. It's something that I've always had. I've always been told you're a good listener, but just being able to hold the space for my coaches has helped me understand what it is that they need. So, all the coaching methodologies that you use, there's value in all of them, and I appreciate the techniques that I've learned in my coaching. But for me, the one thing that does hold that is me is the ability to hold the space for someone. And I find that when I do that, they're able to get to what it is that they want so much quicker. And they're able to go deeper than they thought. I remember Tlonepo, because she's so amazing. But in one of our very first sessions, she told me, this was not what I expected. I was like, I didn't want to do this. And I'm like, it's okay. It's part of the process. And it was being able to unpack that. And it's not me. It's giving her the space to unpack it for herself.
Yes.
That created that profound shift for her.
Yeah.
And that for me is like that just there's no words to express that sort of shift.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
delight.
Yeah, so I think for a lot of people who may not be familiar to our world, what does holding the space for someone means? I mean, the first thing that comes to mind for me is it's such a sacred thing to do in the first place, because you're creating a safe place for that person, free of judgment. That's the first thing that comes up for me. It's a place that you hold for that person, free of judgment. But what are the other elements that speaks to holding the space? And this is also perhaps for our coaches who would be listening, would be interesting, but for you, what does it mean for you to hold the space?
Well, for me, one of the elements is listening, but listening with not with the intention to respond, but just listening with the intention to listen.
Yes.
And being able to listen so that I can ask the right questions that will allow her to delve deeper. So, and also just listening out of pure curiosity, not with an agenda in my mind. And those are the elements that I think help to hold that space for someone. So it's all the things that you mentioned, not no judgment and all of that.
Yeah.
But it's also those other elements that add to it.
Beautiful, thank you. So in the world that is constantly changing, I think South Africa is leading the pack in terms of change in the world. How do you keep your offering relevant? How do you make sure, I know that you serve as an internal coach in an organization, and you've got clients, in your personal capacity from time to time. But what would you say, what are the things that you do to ensure that you remain relevant in your coaching offering?
So for me, growth is a journey. It's not a destination. You
Yeah.
don't get to a point of where you've grown. And continuous growth and development, not just as a coach, but on a personal level, allows me to remain relevant to the people that I coach and who I work with. And I always, I'm guided by one of the sayings that I've heard long ago that just stays with me, and that was from Mahatma Gandhi, who said, "Be the change you wish to see in the world." And that's always been that mantra has always been at the back of my mind, whether coaching, being my mom, or just living my life.
Yeah.
That's the one of the guiding principles.
Awesome. And then during this pandemic, what were some of the areas you needed to pivot or change with how you coached?
I think for me, the I miss the ability to meet with my coaches face to face less frequently than I would have liked to was one of the biggest things
Yeah.
that I needed to change. Because although I did coach online before that as well, and it worked quite well, I preferred to have the face-to-face context because, to see, to use all my senses, to be able to see your nuances, the facial expressions, all of that helped with the coaching. So I think once pandemic hit and we had to go mainly online, I've had to refine my listening more. So not being able to use other senses like sight and
Yeah.
hearing and all of that. I mean, not hearing, but sight mainly. I've had to just hone in on my listening skills a lot more.
Awesome, awesome. And so, Darshana, in just concluding this beautiful interview on your journey into coaching, your understanding of coaching, what you bring to the coaching space, and also how you make sure you remain relevant, navigating the pandemic. I think, one cannot say managing the pandemic. I think we all navigate
Yeah,
it because because
definitely.
the elements are, constantly shifting and changing. So in conclusion, what is the one message you would like to leave with our youth, with our young people? And then that's the one question, the one element. And then with Women's Day coming up, what is that message you want to leave with? So we just came out of Youth Month, which was in June, and we're going into Women's Month, which is in August. What are some of the key messages you would like to share with the youth of South Africa and to the women of the world? We have no idea where this interview may be. I'm taking it to Dubai for sure and sharing it with some people there. So for the women of the world, what would be your message to them?
I think if I think about the youth and women as well, for me, the first thing that comes to mind is be kind.
Be kind. Be kind.
There's so many things I could say, but for me, kindness is one constant. No matter your personal circumstances, upbringing, you can always be kind. And kindness is starting with yourself. Um, I'm always reminding my son to, are you being loving and kind? Are you being kind in what you do? And starting with yourself is so important because women especially end up giving and doing for so many others, but they need to do that for themselves as well. So for me, being kind, start with yourself and let that kindness then ripple through to those around you. And for the youth as well, we need future leaders who are kind and compassionate. And so for me, that would be the biggest takeout. I mean, I could say a lot more, but
Yes.
I think for me that's the most important.
It's powerful because if we think about kindness, we often say, we often find ourselves, or some people find themselves being kind to others, like you said, especially women, and not being the concept of being kind to ourselves is somewhat foreign sometimes. When one asks, okay, when last did you take yourself out or buy yourself flowers, or take the extra long bath, or for a young person, this it might be a young leader doing for everyone else and neglecting themselves. So it's a very, very important thing that, when we ask, why are you kind? Is because my cup of kindness is full and it's running over. But if you are kind and your cup is empty, there is a possibility of it of you building up resentment. because either people are not reciprocating or you're frustrated because you're running on empty. So that is very, very powerful, being kind to ourselves. And especially in this time, in this pandemic, is we got to be extra kind, because we are, like you said earlier on, there's so many stresses that's being added, and we've got to be hypersensitive to the fact that we have to self-soothe, we have to nurture ourselves, which is very important. So, Darshana, it was an absolute pleasure to have this conversation with you. Thank you so much for all that you do in the world of RE and beyond. Thank you for the love and the amazing lives you have impacted. Hopefully we can interview some of your coaches in the future. But I think all I'd like to say is, please keep warm, keep safe, and thank you for sharing the space with us. Sincerely appreciated.